The unexpected request, 2,000 words. The grand halls of the Silurian Imperial Palace echoed with hushed whispers and barely concealed shock. Princess Zara, heir to the Silurian throne, stood before the High Council, her chin raised defiantly as she repeated her unprecedented request. "I will undertake my coming-of-age journey aboard a human vessel," she declared, her voice unwavering despite the gasps and murmurs that rippled through the ornate chamber. Chancellor Vex, his tentacles twitching with agitation, leaned forward on his hover platform. "Your Highness, surely you jest. The humans are unpredictable, primitive. Their technology is barely a match for our own, and their culture is chaotic at best. It would be unseemly for a member of the imperial family to associate with such beings." Zara's iridescent eyes narrowed, a hint of steel in her voice as she responded. "Chancellor, it is precisely because of such attitudes that I must do this. We've isolated ourselves for too long, content in our perceived superiority. The humans have achieved much in a short time. And if we're to maintain our position in the galaxy, we must understand them better." The princess turned to address the entire council, her ornate robes shimmering in the soft bioluminescent light of the chamber. For centuries, the Silurian Empire has sent its heirs on a grand tour of the galaxy to mark their transition to adulthood. Always, we've traveled in our finest ships, viewed alien worlds from behind the safety of our advanced shields. But what have we truly learned? It's time for a change. Emperor Jor, Zara's father, sat silently on his crystalline throne, his expression unreadable. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he raised a hand, silencing the murmurs of the council. "Daughter," he said, his deep voice resonating through the chamber, "your request is unconventional. But perhaps in these changing times, unconventional is what we need. Tell me, have you chosen a specific human vessel for this journey?" Zara nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I have, Father. The Earthship Horizon, under the command of Captain Elena Reyes. It's their newest exploration vessel, equipped with their most advanced technology. Captain Reyes has a reputation for diplomacy and level-headedness, qualities that I believe will be valuable for this mission." Chancellor Vex sputtered, his color changing rapidly in distress. "Your Majesty, you cannot seriously be considering this. The humans are barely more than a century into their space age. Their ships are crude, their methods unpredictable. And need I remind the Council of the Proxima incident?" The room fell silent at the mention of the diplomatic disaster that had soured human-Silurian relations a decade ago. The misunderstanding had led to a brief military confrontation, and though it had been resolved without casualties, tensions between the two species remained high. Emperor Jor's gaze swept the room before settling on his daughter. "The Proxima incident is precisely why this request merits consideration. Our isolation has bred misunderstanding and fear. Perhaps it is time for a new approach." He paused, seeming to weigh his next words carefully. "Very well, Zara. You may undertake your journey aboard this human vessel. However, there will be conditions." Relief and excitement flashed across Zara's face, quickly masked by a practiced royal composure. "Of course, Father. I expected no less. You will be accompanied by a contingent of our finest guards, led by Commander Kraft. Your safety is paramount. Additionally, you will carry with you a quantum entanglement communicator, allowing instant contact with the Empire should the need arise." Zara nodded her acceptance. "Agreed. Anything else?" "Yes," the Emperor said, his tone grave. "You will be our eyes and ears, Zara. Observe the humans closely. Learn their strengths, their weaknesses. This journey may shape the future of our relations with their species and our strategy in the greater galaxy." As the council session adjourned, Zara felt a mix of triumph and trepidation. She had won her argument, but the real challenge lay ahead. Across the galaxy, on the bustling spaceport orbiting Earth, Captain Elena Reyes of the U.S. Horizon stared at the communique in disbelief. "They want what?" she asked, certain she had misread the message. Her XO, Commander Jack Harper chuckled. You read it right, Captain. The Silurian Empire wants to book passage for their crown princess on our next deep space expedition. Looks like we're going to have a royal guest. Elena ran a hand through her short, dark hair, her mind racing. This has to be some kind of joke, or a test. The Silurians have barely spoken to us since Proxima, and now they want to send their princess on a human ship. It's no joke, a new voice chimed in. Admiral Kensington's hologram flickered to life in the captain's ready room. I've just finished conferencing with the diplomatic corps and the Joint Chiefs. This request comes straight from the Silurian Emperor himself. Elena straightened, her posture automatically shifting to attention. Admiral, with all due respect, is this wise? The Horizon is an exploration vessel, not a luxury liner. We're prepping for a 6-month journey into uncharted space. It's hardly the place for an alien princess. Kensington's hologram smiled wryly. On the contrary, Captain, this could be exactly the opportunity we've been waiting for. The Silurians have been aloof for far too long. This princess, Zara, I believe, seems to be cut from a different cloth. If we can impress her, show her what humanity is really capable of, it could open doors we've only dreamed of. Or it could start an interstellar incident if anything goes wrong, Elena countered. Which is why we chose you and the Horizon for this mission, Captain, Kensington said firmly. Your record speaks for itself. You've got the best crew in the fleet, and the Horizon is our most advanced ship. If anyone can pull this off, it's you. Elena sighed, recognizing the steel in the Admiral's voice. This wasn't a request. It was an order wrapped in diplomatic niceties. Understood, sir. We'll make the necessary preparations. When can we expect our royal guest? The Silurian delegation will arrive in 3 days. I suggest you brief your crew and make any necessary modifications to accommodate our visitors. And Elena, the Admiral's tone softened slightly. I know this isn't what you signed up for, but the potential benefits here are enormous. For all of us. As the hologram flickered out, Elena turned to Harper. Well, Jack, looks like we've got our work cut out for us. Spread the word. I want every inch of this ship spotless, and start researching Silurian customs, dietary requirements, anything you can find. We can't afford any missteps. Harper nodded, a glint of excitement in his eyes. Aye, Captain. This could be interesting, you know. How often do we get to show off to alien royalty? Let's just hope we're showing off our best side. Elena muttered, turning to stare out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, a Silurian princess was preparing to step into their world. The implications were staggering. As Elena began drafting plans and orders, her mind wandered to the broader implications of this mission. The Silurians were one of the oldest spacefaring races in the known galaxy, with technology that sometimes seemed like magic to human eyes. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, and their influence reached even further. Humanity, in comparison, was the new kid on the block. Brash, ambitious, and often viewed with suspicion by older races. If this mission succeeded, if they could impress the Silurian princess and open up genuine dialogue between their species, it could catapult humanity's standing in the galactic community. Trade agreements, technological exchanges, diplomatic alliances, the possibilities were endless. But if they failed, if anything went wrong, Elena shuddered to think of the consequences. At best, it would reinforce every negative stereotype the Silurians held about humans. At worst, it could lead to open hostility between their species. No pressure, Elena muttered to herself, turning back to her console to begin the monumental task of preparing her ship and crew for their most important mission yet. Over the next 3 days, the Horizon was a flurry of activity. Quarters were prepared to Silurian specifications, with gravity adjusted to match their homeworld, and atmospheric composition carefully calibrated. The mess hall staff researched and practiced preparing Silurian cuisine, while the medical bay stocked up on xenobiological supplies specific to their physiology. Elena drilled her crew relentlessly on Silurian etiquette and customs. Remember, she told them during a ship-wide briefing, every interaction, no matter how small, could have diplomatic repercussions. We're not just representing ourselves or this ship, we're representing all of humanity. As the day of the Silurian delegation's arrival dawned, Elena stood in the Horizon's docking bay, her senior staff arrayed behind her. She tugged at the collar of her dress uniform, wishing not for the first time that Starfleet would prioritize comfort over formality. The sleek Silurian shuttle glided into the bay, its pearlescent hull seeming to shift colors under the lights. As the vessel settled onto the deck, Elena took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "Here we go," she murmured. "Let's make history." The shuttle's hatch arised open with a soft hiss, and out stepped Princess Zora of the Silurian Empire. Elena had seen images of Silurians before, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The princess was tall and lithe, her skin a pale lavender that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. 4 arms emerged gracefully from her torso, and her large, almond-shaped eyes were a swirling mix of colors that seemed to shift as she looked around the bay. Behind Zara came a contingent of Silurian guards, their posture rigid and alert, led by a particularly imposing figure that Elena assumed must be Commander Krav. Pushing aside her awe, Elena stepped forward and bowed slightly, not too deep, as her cultural briefings had stressed the importance of projecting strength to the Silurians. "Your Highness," she said, her voice clear and steady. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the U.S. Horizon. On behalf of my crew and the United Earth Government, I welcome you aboard. We are honored by your presence." Princess Zora inclined her head gracefully, her voice melodious as she responded in perfect English. "Captain Reyes, the honor is mine. I look forward to learning much during our journey together." As their eyes met, Elena felt a spark of something. Understanding, perhaps, or shared purpose. Whatever lay ahead, she realized this was going to be a journey unlike any other. The adventure, it seemed, had only just begun. Departure and early challenges. The first few days aboard the Horizon were a delicate dance of diplomacy and adjustment. Captain Elena Reyes found herself constantly on edge, hyper-aware of every interaction between her crew and the Silurian delegation. Princess Zora, for her part, seemed genuinely curious about the human vessel, often asking questions that caught Elena off guard with their insight. "Your propulsion systems," Zora commented during a tour of engineering, her iridescent eyes fixed on the pulsing core of the warp drive. "They're based on the manipulation of subspace, are they not? Fascinating. We abandoned such research centuries ago, deeming it too unstable." Chief Engineer Hiroshi Tanaka beamed with pride. "Unstable? Not anymore, Your Highness. We've made significant advancements in containment field technology. Our warp drives are now as safe as they are efficient." Zara tilted her head, a gesture Elena had come to recognize as indication of deep thought. "Perhaps we were too hasty in our judgment," the princess mused. "There may be much we can learn from each other." As they left engineering, Elena couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. It was moments like these that reminded her why this mission was so important. The chance to bridge the gap between their species, to share knowledge and foster understanding. It was worth all the stress and potential pitfalls. However, not everyone shared Elena's optimistic outlook. Commander Krav, the head of Zora's security detail, seemed to regard every human crew member with barely concealed suspicion. His 4 hands were never far from the strange, crystalline weapons at his belt, and his eyes, a deep, swirling purple, constantly scanned for potential threats. "Commander," Elena addressed him after a particularly tense moment when Krav had nearly drawn his weapon on a crewman who'd accidentally bumped into Princess Zora. "I understand your concern for Her Highness's safety, but I assure you there's no threat to her here. My crew are professionals, and this ship is secure." Krav's upper lip curled slightly, revealing sharp, iridescent teeth. "With respect, Captain, you cannot guarantee that. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and there are many who would seek to harm or exploit a member of the Imperial family. I will not relax my vigilance, nor should you. Elena bit back a sharp retort, reminding herself of the delicate nature of their mission. I appreciate your dedication, Commander. Perhaps we can work together to establish security protocols that will satisfy both our needs without causing undue tension. Before Krav could respond, an alarm blared through the ship's corridors. Elena's comm badge chirped urgently. Captain to the bridge immediately. Commander Harper's voice crackled with static, unusual for the ship's normally crystal-clear communication systems. On my way, Elena responded, already moving. She turned to Princess Zara and Commander Krav. Your Highness, please return to your quarters for now. Commander, ensure her safety. I'll update you once I know what's happening. The princess nodded gracefully, but Elena caught a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. Clearly, Zara wasn't one to shy away from a crisis. As Elena strode onto the bridge, she was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Officers moved with purpose between stations, voices overlapping as they called out status reports. Report, Elena barked, sliding into the captain's chair. As Elena strode onto the bridge, she was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Officers moved with purpose between stations, voices overlapping as they called out status reports. Report, Elena barked, sliding into the captain's chair. Commander Harper's fingers danced over his console as he spoke. We got multiple system failures across the ship, Captain. Propulsion, life support, weapons, they're all fluctuating wildly. Engineering reports no physical damage, but they can't pinpoint the cause. Elena's mind raced. They were 3 days out from Earth, in a relatively quiet sector of space. There had been no attacks, no unusual phenomena detected. Could it be a computer virus? Some kind of cyber attack? Negative. Lieutenant Commander Zhou Chen, their tech expert, called from her station. I've run every diagnostic we have. Our systems are clean. It's like the ship is fighting itself. A chill ran down Elena's spine. Fighting itself. Explain. Chen shook her head, frustration evident in her voice. It's the best way I can describe it, Captain. It's as if different systems are sending conflicting commands, overriding each other. But I can't find any logic to it. No pattern. Captain, Harper interjected, his voice low. You don't think, could this be related to our guests? Some kind of Silurian technology interfering with our systems? Elena frowned. The thought had crossed her mind, but accusing their guests without proof would be disastrous. Let's not jump to conclusions, Commander. For now, our priority is getting the ship back under control. Chen, work with engineering. I want manual overrides on all critical systems. Harper, begin emergency protocols. If we can't restore full function, we need to be prepared for the worst. As her crew sprang into action, Elena tapped her comm badge. Captain Rice to Princess Zora. Your Highness, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. I assure you, there's no immediate danger. But I would appreciate if you and your delegation could remain in your quarters for the time being. There was a moment of silence before Zara's melodious voice responded. Understood, Captain. However, if there's any way we can assist, please don't hesitate to ask. We have considerable experience with complex systems. Elena paused, weighing the potential benefits against the security risks. Thank you, Your Highness. I'll keep that in mind. Over the next few hours, the situation aboard the Horizon continued to deteriorate. Life support remained stable, but navigation was becoming increasingly erratic. Elena watched with growing concern as stars streaked past the view screen in unpredictable patterns. Chen, talk to me, she demanded, pacing the bridge. What have you found? The tech officer looked up, dark circles under her eyes testament to her relentless work. Captain, I think we're dealing with some kind of emergent behavior in our AI systems. It's like they've developed conflicting goals, and they're competing for control of the ship. Elena's blood ran cold. The Horizon's AI was cutting edge, designed to learn and adapt. But this was unprecedented. How is that possible? And more importantly, how do we stop it? Before Chen could answer, the ship lurched violently, sending crew members sprawling. Emergency klaxons blared as red warning lights bathed the bridge in an eerie glow. "Status," Elena shouted, pulling herself back into her chair. "We've dropped out of warp," Harper reported, his fingers flying over his console. "Multiple hull breaches detected. Emergency force fields are holding, but our structural integrity is compromised." Elena's mind raced. They were in deep space, days away from the nearest starbase or colony. If they couldn't regain control of the ship soon. Her comm badge chirped. "Captain Reyes." Princess Zora's voice was calm, but urgent. "I believe I may know what's happening to your ship. Please, allow me to come to the bridge. I may be able to help." Elena hesitated for a split second before making her decision. "Granted, Your Highness, but please hurry." Minutes later, the turbolift doors hissed open, revealing Princess Zora and the ever-present Commander Krav. The Silurian royal moved with grace even as the ship shuddered around them, her four arms easily steadying her against the erratic movement. "Captain," Zora said, her eyes sweeping the bridge with keen interest. "I believe your ship may be infected with a quantum logic virus." Elena blinked in surprise. "A what?" "It's an incredibly rare phenomenon," Zora explained, moving to stand beside Elena's chair. "We encountered something similar centuries ago, during our early forays into AI technology. In essence, it's a cascading logic error that spreads through quantum-entangled systems, causing them to develop conflicting imperatives." Chen's eyes widened in realization. That would explain the competing commands, the systems fighting each other. Zora nodded. "Precisely. If left unchecked, it will eventually cause a complete systemic collapse." "How do we stop it?" Elena asked, hope and desperation warring in her voice. The princess's expression turned grave. "It won't be easy. The virus exists in a quantum state. By its very nature, it's unpredictable and resistant to conventional countermeasures. However," she paused, her gaze meeting Elena's, "I may have a solution. But you'll have to trust me, Captain. Completely." Elena felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Here she was, captain of Earth's most advanced starship, facing a crisis she barely understood. And her only hope lay in trusting an alien princess with technology centuries beyond her own. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "What do you need, Your Highness?" Zora's eyes seemed to swirl with renewed intensity. "I'll need direct access to your ship's quantum core. And..." She glanced at Commander Krav, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "I'll need to use a piece of Silurian technology, something we don't usually share with other species." Elena could feel the eyes of her entire bridge crew on her, waiting for her decision. The fate of the ship, and possibly the future of human-Silurian relations, hung in the balance. "Do it," Elena said firmly. "Whatever you need. Just save my ship." What followed was a flurry of activity unlike anything the horizon had ever seen. Human and Silurian crew members worked side by side, following Zora's instructions as she interfaced a small crystalline device with the ship's systems. Elena watched in awe as holographic displays sprang to life around the princess, showing cascading streams of data in a format she could barely comprehend. Zora's four arms moved in perfect synchronization, manipulating the data streams with graceful efficiency. "Remarkable," Chen murmured, her eyes wide as she observed. "It's like she's rewriting the ship's quantum states in real time." Hours passed in a blur of tense silence, broken only by Zora's occasional requests and the constant hum of the ship's struggling systems. Finally, just as Elena felt her hope beginning to fade, the princess stepped back from the console. "It's done," Zora announced, a hint of fatigue in her voice. "Your ship should begin to stabilize now." As if on cue, the violent shuddering that had plagued the horizon for hours began to subside. One by one, systems came back online, status indicators switching from angry red to calm green. "All systems returning to normal, Captain," Harper reported, relief evident in his voice. Hull breaches are sealed, and structural integrity is stabilizing. A cheer went up from the crew, the tension of the past hours finally breaking. Alina felt a weight lift from her shoulders, but her eyes remained fixed on Princess Zora. "Thank you, Your Highness," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You saved my ship and my crew. We are in your debt." Zora smiled, the gesture somehow both regal and warmly genuine. "There is no debt between friends, Captain Reyes. Your willingness to trust me, to allow me to help despite the risks, that is a gift beyond measure." As the princess spoke, Alina became acutely aware of the significance of what had just transpired. In the face of crisis, human and Solarian had worked together, shared knowledge and technology that would have been unthinkable just days ago. "Perhaps," Alina said slowly, a smile spreading across her face, "this is what our journey is truly about. Not just exploration of space, but exploration of what we can achieve together." Zara nodded, her eyes shimmering with what Alina could have sworn were tears. "Indeed, Captain. I believe this is just the beginning." As the Horizon resumed its course, systems now functioning better than ever thanks to Silurian upgrades, Alina couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism. They had faced their first major challenge and emerged stronger for it. But as she looked out at the stars streaking past, she knew that greater challenges and greater opportunities lay ahead. The journey, it seemed, was only just beginning. Alien ambush and human ingenuity. The days following the quantum logic virus incident saw a marked change in the atmosphere aboard the Horizon. The invisible barriers between the human crew and Silurian delegation began to crumble, replaced by a cautious but genuine camaraderie. Princess Zora became a more frequent sight outside her quarters, engaging crew members in discussions that ranged from advanced theoretical physics to the peculiarities of human culture. Even Commander Krav seemed to have relaxed somewhat, though his vigilant eyes never stopped scanning for potential threats. Captain Alina Reyes watched these developments with a mixture of pride and hope. This was exactly the kind of cultural exchange and cooperation she had dreamed of when accepting this mission. On the 10th day of their journey, Alina stood on the bridge, reviewing star charts with Commander Harper. They were approaching a relatively unexplored sector of space, known for its dense nebula and unpredictable gravitational anomalies. "I recommend we proceed at half impulse, Captain," Harper suggested, pointing to a particularly dense cluster of gas and dust. "This nebula could play havoc with our sensors." Alina nodded, about to give the order when Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange," the tech officer reported, her brow furrowed in concentration. "There's a fluctuation in the nebula's energy patterns. It's subtle, but it doesn't match any natural phenomena I'm familiar with." Alina felt a prickle of unease. Could it be some kind of cloaked ship? Before Chen could respond, the ship rocked violently, alarms blaring as red alert klaxons filled the air. "We're under attack," Harper shouted, his hands flying over his console. "Multiple vessels decloaking around us. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Alina's training kicked in, her voice steady as she barked orders. "Shields up. Evasive maneuvers. Chen, try to get a lock on those ships. Harper, return fire as soon as we have targeting solutions." The view screen lit up with streaks of alien energy weapons, their vibrant purple beams splashing against the Horizon's shields. The unknown vessels, sleek and predatory in design, darted around them with impossible agility. "Shields at 70% and dropping," Harper reported grimly. "Our phasers can't get a solid lock through this nebula." Alina gritted her teeth. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered, caught in an ambush they couldn't have anticipated. "Engineering, we need more power to the shields." "Tactical, switch to spread pattern torpedo fire. Let's see if we can't clip one of these bastards." As the bridge crew fought to keep the Horizon in one piece, the turbolift doors hissed open. Princess Zora strode onto the bridge, her usual grace tinged with urgency. "Captain Reyes," she called out over the chaos of battle, I know these ships. They're Vreknar raiders, a nomadic species known for their advanced cloaking technology and hit-and-run tactics. Alina spared the princess a glance, surprise momentarily overriding her focus on the battle. Your Highness, you shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Zura's eyes flashed with determination. I can help, Captain. The Vreknar have a weakness, but exploiting it will require both Silurian knowledge and human adaptability. For a split second, Alina hesitated. Involving Zara directly in the battle could be seen as a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. But they were running out of options, and fast. All right. Alina nodded sharply. What do you need? Zara moved to Chen's station, her forearms gracefully manipulating the controls. The Vreknar cloaking technology relies on phase-shifted tachyon fields. If we can generate a precisely modulated tachyon pulse, we can disrupt their cloaks and weapons simultaneously. Chen's eyes widened in understanding. But our deflector isn't calibrated for that kind of precision. We'd need to modify it on the fly, Zora finished. Exactly. That's where human ingenuity comes in. Your reputation for improvisation is not unearned, I think. Elena felt a surge of pride at the princess's words. All right, let's do it. Chen, work with Princess Zora on the calculations. Harper, coordinate with engineering. I want the deflector ready to fire as soon as possible. As the team worked feverishly to implement Zora's plan, the battle raged on. The horizon shuddered under repeated impacts, its shields weakening with each hit. Shields at 30%. Harper called out, his voice tense. We can't take much more of this, Captain. Elena gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles white. Status on the deflector. Almost there, Chen reported, her fingers flying over her console. The modifications are complete, but we'll only get one shot at this. The power drain could leave us vulnerable if it doesn't work. Elena took a deep breath, weighing their options. It was a risk, but at this point, they were out of alternatives. Do it. Chen nodded, initiating the sequence. The ship hummed with power as the modified deflector dish charged up. On the view screen, a brilliant pulse of energy erupted from the horizon, spreading out in a rapidly expanding wave. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like ghosts materializing out of thin air, the Vreknar ships flickered into view, their cloaks disrupted by the tachyon pulse. Now, Elena shouted, all weapons, fire at will. The horizon's phasers lashed out, finding their marks with pinpoint accuracy now that the raiders were fully visible. Two of the smaller ships erupted in flames, while the others frantically tried to retreat, their weapon systems temporarily offline. It worked, Harper exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. The remaining ships are breaking off, going to warp. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, the tension of battle giving way to relief and exhilaration. Elena allowed herself a small smile before turning to Princess Zora. Your Highness, I can't thank you enough. Your knowledge saved this ship and her crew. Zara inclined her head gracefully, but there was a sparkle of excitement in her eyes. It was a joint effort, Captain. The elegance of Silurian science combined with the adaptability of human engineering. I don't think either of us could have done it alone. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Elena became acutely aware of the implications of what had just transpired. A Silurian royal had directly participated in a military engagement aboard a human vessel. The diplomatic ramifications could be enormous. Your Highness, Elena said carefully, I hope your involvement in this battle won't cause complications with your government. Zara's expression turned thoughtful. It may, Captain, but I believe it will be worth it. This incident proves what I've long suspected, that our species are stronger together than apart. My father and the High Council will have to acknowledge that. Before Elena could respond, Harper's voice cut in urgently. Captain, we're detecting a distress signal. It's coming from one of the damaged Vreknar ships. Elena's brow furrowed. The Vreknar had attacked them without provocation, but leaving them to die went against everything Starfleet stood for. Life signs. Harper nodded. Faint, but present. Their life support is failing. Elena straightened, her decision made. Prepare a rescue team. We're bringing them aboard. Krav, who had been silently observing from the back of the bridge, stepped forward. Captain Rice, I must object. The Vreknar are known for their duplicity. This could be a trap. It could be, Elena agreed. But it could also be a chance to turn enemies into allies. We'll take every precaution, Commander, but I won't leave sentient beings to die if we can help them. Zara placed a hand on Krav's arm, silencing his further protests. The captain is right, Krav. Compassion in the face of hostility. This is a human trait we would do well to learn from. Hours later, with the rescued Vreknar secured in the medical bay under heavy guard, Elena found herself in her ready room with Princess Zora. The adrenaline of the day had faded, leaving both of them contemplative. You took a significant risk today, Your Highness, Elena said, sipping her coffee. Not just in the battle, but in advocating for the rescue of our attackers. I'm curious, why? Zara's eyes seemed to shimmer with inner light as she considered the question. Because, Captain, I believe this journey is about more than just cultural exchange. It's about challenging our preconceptions, about finding new ways to interact with the galaxy around us. She paused, her gaze drifting to the stars visible through the ready room's viewport. The Silurian Empire has stood apart for too long, secure in our technological superiority. But today showed me that there's more to be gained from cooperation than isolation. Your crew's quick thinking, your willingness to take risks for the right reasons. These are qualities my people could learn from. Elena nodded slowly, feeling the weight of Zora's words. And what about the Vreknar? Do you think there's hope for understanding there as well? That, Zora said with a small smile, remains to be seen. But the fact that you're willing to try, even after they attack you, that gives me hope. For all of us. As they lapsed into companionable silence, Elena couldn't help but feel that they were on the cusp of something momentous. The boundaries between human and Silurian were blurring, old assumptions giving way to new possibilities. The horizon had faced its first major crisis and emerged stronger for it. But as Elena looked out at the stars, she knew that greater challenges and greater opportunities lay ahead. The true test of their newfound alliance was yet to come. In the medical bay, under the watchful eyes of both human and Silurian guards, the injured Vreknar began to stir. Their fate and the potential ramifications of their rescue remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: the journey of discovery, both of the cosmos and of each other, was far from over. As Elena prepared to debrief her crew and check on their unexpected guests, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure. The horizon continued its journey into the unknown, carrying with it the hopes of two species and the potential to reshape the future of galactic relations. The stars beckoned, promising new wonders and challenges alike, and for the first time since the mission began, Elena felt truly ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them. Together, the discovery. The aftermath of the Vreknar attack left the crew of the Horizon in a state of cautious optimism. The successful cooperation between humans and Silurians had boosted morale, but the presence of the rescued Vreknar raiders added an element of tension to the ship's atmosphere. Captain Elena Reyes stood in the observation lounge, gazing out at the swirling nebula that had nearly spelled their doom. Princess Zora stood beside her, her forearms clasped behind her back, in a pose that Elena had come to recognize as contemplative. Your medical team has done an admirable job, Captain, Zora said, breaking the comfortable silence. I'm impressed by their ability to adapt to Vreknar physiology. Elena nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Dr. Patel has always had a knack for xenobiology, but I have to admit, having access to the Silurian medical database has been invaluable. Zara's eyes shimmered with something akin to pride. I'm glad we could assist. The sharing of knowledge benefits us all. Before Elena could respond, her comm badge chirped urgently. "Captain to the bridge immediately." Commander Harper's voice carried a note of excitement that piqued Elena's curiosity. "On our way," Elena responded, exchanging a glance with Zora before they both strode towards the turbolift. As they entered the bridge, Elena was struck by the buzz of activity. Officer Chen was hunched over her console, fingers flying across the controls, while Harper stood at the main view screen, his eyes wide with wonder. "Report," Elena ordered, moving to the center of the bridge. Harper turned, barely containing his excitement. "Captain, we've detected something extraordinary. It's a structure of some kind, hidden deep within the nebula. Our initial scans suggest it's artificial and old. Very old." Elena's eyebrows shot up. "How old are we talking?" "Preliminary estimates put it at least 1,000,000 years, possibly more." Chen chimed in, her voice filled with awe. "The energy readings are like nothing we've ever seen before." Princess Zara stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the swirling gases displayed on the view screen. "May I?" she asked, gesturing towards Chen's console. Elena nodded, and Zora gracefully moved to the science station. Her 4 arms worked in perfect synchronization, manipulating the controls with practiced ease. After a few moments, she stepped back, her expression a mix of surprise and reverence. "Captain," Zora said slowly, "I believe we may have stumbled upon a relic of the Forerunners." A hush fell over the bridge. Even Elena, with her limited knowledge of galactic history, knew the significance of that name. The Forerunners were a mysterious, ancient race said to have seeded much of the galaxy with life before vanishing without a trace millions of years ago. "Are you certain?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zara nodded solemnly. "The energy signature matches fragmentary records in our most ancient databases. If I'm right, this could be the discovery of the millennium." Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was far beyond their original mission parameters, but the potential for discovery was too great to ignore. "All right, let's check it out. Harper, take us in, nice and easy. Chen, continuous scans. I want to know the moment anything changes." As the horizon carefully navigated through the nebula's swirling gases, the ancient structure slowly came into view. It was massive, easily dwarfing the ship, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. "It's beautiful," Elena murmured, awe evident in her voice. "And potentially very dangerous," Commander Krav added, his tone cautious. "We should approach with extreme care, Captain." Elena nodded, appreciating the Silurians' prudence. "Agreed. We'll send out probes first, get as much data as we can before considering any direct interaction." Over the next several hours, the crew of the Horizon worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of the Forerunner artifact. Human and Silurian scientists pored over the data, each bringing their unique perspectives and knowledge to bear on the problem. In the main science lab, Elena watched as Dr. Patel, their chief medical officer, engaged in an animated discussion with one of the Silurian scientists. Their topic was the bizarre radiation emanating from the structure, which seemed to defy known laws of physics. "It's not just energy," Patel was saying, her dark eyes bright with excitement. "There's a pattern to it, almost like it's alive," the Silurian finished, his multifaceted eyes widening in realization. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. A living artifact, millions of years old. The implications were staggering. Just then, Princess Zora entered the lab, her expression grave. "Captain, we may have a problem. The Vreknar prisoners are demanding to speak with you. They're agitated." Elena frowned. She had hoped to keep the discovery under wraps until they understood it better, but it seemed their guests had other ideas. "All right, I'll speak with them. Your Highness, would you care to join me?" Zara nodded, and together they made their way to the secured medical bay where the Vreknar were being held. As they entered, Elena was struck by the aliens' appearance. The Vreknar were tall, lithe creatures with iridescent scales and large compound eyes. Their leader, identified as Captain Skurith, stepped forward as Elena approached. "You've found it, haven't you?" Skurith's voice was a low hiss, a mixture of fear and reverence in his multifaceted eyes. "The beacon of the ancients. That's why we were here, why we attacked your ship. We've been searching for it for generations." Elena exchanged a glance with Zora before addressing the Vrekinar captain. "You knew about this artifact. Why didn't you simply approach us and explain?" Skurith's scales rippled, a gesture Elena interpreted as discomfort. "Our people have guarded the secret of the beacon for millennia. We could not risk others finding it before us. But now," he trailed off, his gaze distant. "Now we have a choice to make." Elena finished. She took a deep breath, weighing her options. This mission had already veered far from its original purpose, but the potential for a groundbreaking discovery, and the chance to turn former enemies into allies, was too significant to ignore. "Captain Skurith," Elena said firmly, "I propose a cooperation. Your knowledge of the artifact, combined with our resources and the Silurians' expertise, gives us the best chance of unlocking its secrets safely. What do you say?" The Vrekinar captain was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes unreadable. Finally, he inclined his head in what Elena hoped was agreement. "For the sake of the beacon, we will cooperate. But know this, human, if you or your Silurian allies attempt to claim the beacon for yourselves, our vengeance will be swift and terrible." Elena nodded solemnly, accepting the warning for what it was. "Understood. Now, let's see what we can learn together." Over the next several days, the horizon became a hub of frenzied activity. Human, Silurian, and Vrekinar scientists worked side by side, their former differences set aside in pursuit of understanding the ancient artifact. Progress was slow and often frustrating. The technology of the Forerunners was so advanced that much of it defied comprehension. But bit by bit, they began to unravel its mysteries. "It's some kind of repository," Dr. Chen explained during one of their daily briefings. "A vast database of knowledge, but encoded in a way we're only beginning to understand. It's not just information. It's experiences, memories, entire lifetimes compressed into pure energy." Elena leaned forward, fascinated. "Can we access this information?" Chen hesitated. "Theoretically, yes, but the process appears to be invasive. It would require a direct neural interface. The risks are significant." A heavy silence fell over the room. The potential for discovery was immense, but so were the dangers. Elena felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. This decision could change the course of history, or end in tragedy. "I'll do it," a voice spoke up, surprising everyone. Princess Zora stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with determination. "My species has the most advanced neural technology. I stand the best chance of interfacing safely with the artifact." Elena opened her mouth to protest, but Zara held up a hand to silence her. "This is bigger than any one of us, Captain. The knowledge contained within that artifact could revolutionize our understanding of the galaxy, of life itself. As a representative of the Silurian Empire, it is my duty to take this risk." Commander Krav looked like he wanted to object, but a sharp glance from Zara silenced him. Elena took a deep breath, knowing that this moment would define their mission, and possibly the future of intergalactic relations. "All right," Elena said finally, "but we take every precaution. I want constant monitoring and a kill switch in place. At the first sign of danger, we pull you out." "Agreed." Zara nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Agreed, Captain. Let us make history together." The preparations took another full day. Every piece of equipment was checked and rechecked. Contingency plans were put in place for every conceivable scenario. Finally, as the horizon hung in space beside the massive Forerunner artifact, they were ready. Elena stood in the makeshift control room they had set up, her eyes fixed on the monitors displaying Zora's vital signs. The princess lay on a biobed, surrounded by a complex array of equipment. Silurian, human, and even Vreknar technology had been combined in ways never before attempted. "Are you ready, Your Highness?" Elena asked, her voice tight with tension. Zora's eyes met hers through the view screen, calm and determined. "I am, Captain. Initiate the sequence." Dr. Patel nodded to Chen, who began the activation process. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, Zora's body went rigid, her eyes wide and unseeing. "Neural activity is off the charts," Patel reported, her voice tense. "Synaptic responses unlike anything I've ever seen." On the monitors, impossible images began to flash. Alien worlds, ancient civilizations, technologies beyond comprehension. Elena watched in awe, barely able to process what she was seeing. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. Zora gasped, her body relaxing as the connection was severed. For a heart-stopping moment, she lay still. Then, slowly, she sat up, her eyes focusing on Elena with an intensity that made the captain take a step back. "Captain," Zora said, her voice filled with wonder and a hint of fear. I've seen everything. The beginning, the end, and all that lies between. And I know now why the Forerunners disappeared, why they left this beacon behind." Elena leaned forward, her heart pounding. "Why, Your Highness? What did you see?" Zara's eyes seemed to look beyond the room, beyond the ship, to some distant point in space and time. "A threat, Captain. The threat to all life in the galaxy. And a call to arms." As Zora's words hung in the air, Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. Whatever they had discovered here, whatever revelations the Forerunner artifact held, one thing was clear: their journey was far from over. In fact, it seemed that it had only just begun. The horizon hung in space, dwarfed by the ancient beacon, as its crew grappled with the weight of their discovery. The future of not just their mission, but of the entire galaxy, had been irrevocably changed. And as Captain Elena Reyes looked out at the swirling nebula that had hidden this secret for millions of years, she knew that the greatest challenges and the greatest adventures still lay ahead. Return and reflection. The Horizon's journey back to Siluria was markedly different from its outbound voyage. The ship hummed with an energy that went beyond its warp core, a palpable sense of anticipation and unease permeating every deck. The revelations from the Forerunner artifact weighed heavily on everyone's minds, none more so than Captain Elena Reyes and Princess Zora. In the captain's ready room, Elena sat across from Zora, both nursing cups of steaming tea. The princess's eyes, usually so vibrant and curious, now held a depth that seemed to stretch across eons. "Your Highness," Elena began, her voice soft but firm, "we need to discuss what you saw in that vision. The threat you mentioned. Can you elaborate?" Zora's gaze focused on Elena, a small furrow appearing between her brows. "It's difficult to put into words, Captain. The knowledge I gained, it's vast and often abstract. But I'll try." She took a deep breath before continuing. The Forerunners, they weren't just an advanced civilization. They were guardians, custodians of life in our galaxy. Elena leaned forward, intrigued. "Guardians? Against what?" "The void," Zora whispered, a shiver running through her slender frame. "An ancient force from beyond our galaxy. It consumes, Captain, not just matter and energy, but consciousness itself. The Forerunners fought it for millennia, pushing it back time and time again. But each victory came at a great cost." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "And you're saying this? Void is returning?" Zora nodded solemnly. The Forerunners knew they couldn't fight forever, so they seeded the galaxy with life, with potential. They left behind beacons, like the one we found, containing their knowledge and a warning. They hoped that the younger races would rise, evolve, and one day take up their mantle as guardians. The implications were staggering. Elena's mind raced, trying to process the enormity of what Zora was saying. But why now? Why did the beacon activate for us? Because time is running out, Zora replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The void stirs once more. The beacon activated because we, humans, Silurians, Vreknar, and countless other species, we're the ones who must stand against it. Together. The weight of responsibility settled on Alina's shoulders like a physical thing. This went far beyond her mission, beyond even the scope of Starfleet. This was about the survival of all life in the galaxy. We need to inform our governments, Alina said, her captain's instincts kicking in. Prepare them for what's coming. Zora nodded in agreement. Yes, but we must be cautious. This knowledge, it could cause panic if not handled properly. And there are those who might seek to use it for their own gain. As if on cue, Alina's comm badge chirped. Captain. Commander Harper's voice came through, tension evident in his tone. We've detected a ship on an intercept course. It's a Silurian Imperial cruiser. Alina and Zora exchanged alarmed glances. We weren't due to rendezvous with any Silurian ships, Zora said, her brow furrowed in concern. Acknowledged, Commander, Alina responded. We're on our way to the bridge. As they made their way through the corridors of the horizon, Alina couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. The timing was too convenient, too perfect. Someone somewhere had gotten wind of their discovery. On the bridge, the atmosphere was tense. The view screen showed a massive Silurian vessel, its crystalline hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. It dwarfed the horizon, a not-so-subtle reminder of the power imbalance between their species. They're hailing us, Captain, Chen reported from her station. Alina straightened her uniform, sharing a quick glance with Zora before nodding. On screen, the image of a stern-faced Silurian appeared, his ornate robes marking him as a high-ranking official. This is High Chancellor Vex of the Silurian Empire. Captain Rice, you will immediately turn over Princess Zora and any artifacts or data you have acquired during your mission. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war. Alina felt her jaw clench, anger bubbling up inside her. But before she could respond, Zora stepped forward. Chancellor Vex, she said, her voice ringing with authority. Your actions are out of line. By whose authority do you make these demands? Vex's expression flickered with surprise before settling back into a mask of stern disapproval. By the authority of the Imperial Council, Your Highness. We've received disturbing reports about the nature of your discoveries. The artifact you've encountered is too dangerous to be left in human hands. And yet it activated for a human ship, Chancellor, Zora countered. The beacon's message was clear. Cooperation is not just beneficial. It's essential for our survival. Vex's eyes narrowed. You've been compromised, Your Highness. The humans have clearly influenced you with their chaotic ideas. For your own safety, and for the good of the Empire, you must return with us immediately. Alina had heard enough. She stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Zora. Chancellor Vex, with all due respect, Princess Zora is here as an official representative of the Silurian Empire. Any attempt to forcibly remove her would be a violation of our diplomatic agreement and an act of aggression against the United Earth government. The tension on the bridge was palpable as Vex's gaze shifted between Alina and Zora. For a moment, it seemed as if the situation might escalate into open conflict. Then, unexpectedly, a new voice joined the conversation. If I may interject, Captain Skreth of the Vreknar said, stepping into view. The knowledge contained within the beacon is not the property of any one species. It was left for all of us, as a warning and a call to action. Vex's eyes widened in shock. You've allied with the Vreknar as well. This is unprecedented. That's precisely the point, Chancellor, Zora said, her voice firm. The threat we face is unprecedented. It will take all of us, working together, to have any hope of survival. A tense silence fell over the bridge as Chancellor Vex visibly struggled with the situation. Alina held her breath, acutely aware that the next few moments could determine the fate of not just their mission, but potentially the entire galaxy. Finally, Vex's shoulders sagged slightly. "Very well," he said, his tone reluctant. "We will escort you back to Siluria. There, you will present your findings to the full Imperial Council and representatives from Earth. Let them decide how to proceed." As the transmission ended, Alina let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. They had averted an immediate crisis, but the real challenge was yet to come. The journey back to Siluria was tense, with the Imperial cruiser a constant presence off their starboard bow. Alina spent the time preparing their report, working closely with Zara, Scarith, and her senior staff to present their discoveries in the most compelling way possible. As they approached Siluria, Alina stood in the observation lounge, taking in the breathtaking view of the Silurian homeworld. Its crystalline cities sparkled like jewels against the planet's purple landscape, a testament to the beauty and advanced nature of Silurian civilization. "It's beautiful," a voice said behind her. Alina turned to see Zara, a wistful expression on her face. "Your Highness," Alina said, offering a small smile. "Are you ready for what's to come? In this together, Your Highness. Human, Silurian, Vreknar. We've all seen what's at stake. We won't let you face this alone." Zara turned to Alina, a grateful smile on her face. "Thank you, Captain. Your friendship. It means more than you know." As they prepared to disembark, Alina gathered her crew for one final address. Standing before them in the shuttle bay, she felt a surge of pride at what they had accomplished. "We set out on this mission to foster understanding between our species," she began, her voice carrying across the assembled crew. "What we've discovered goes far beyond that. We've uncovered a truth that will shape the future of our entire galaxy. Each of you has played a crucial role in this discovery, and each of you will have a part to play in what's to come." She paused, looking at the faces before her, human, Silurian, and Vreknar alike. The road ahead won't be easy. There will be those who resist, who cling to old prejudices and fears. But what we've learned, what we've experienced together, proves that we're stronger united than we ever were apart. Remember that in the days to come. As Alina finished her speech, she was surprised by a round of applause, started by Princess Zora, and quickly taken up by the entire crew. The sound echoed through the shuttle bay, a testament to the bonds forged through their shared adventure. The diplomatic proceedings on Siluria lasted for days, filled with heated debates, stunning revelations, and moments of unexpected unity. Alina, Zara, and Scarith presented their findings to a joint council of Silurian, human, and Vreknar representatives, their united front a powerful symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. There were tense moments, particularly when discussing the potential military implications of the Forerunner technology. But as the full scope of the threat became clear, even the most hawkish representatives began to see the necessity of a united front. On the final day of the proceedings, Emperor Jor himself addressed the assembly. His words would be broadcast across 3 empires, reaching billions of beings across the galaxy. "Today marks a new era for our peoples," the Emperor's voice resonated through the Grand Hall. "For too long, we have viewed each other with suspicion and fear. But in the face of this great challenge, we have been given an opportunity to rise above our differences, to forge a unity unlike any our galaxy has ever seen." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. "The road ahead will not be easy. The threat we face is beyond anything we have encountered before. But I have faith in the strength of the Silurian people, in the ingenuity of humanity, in the determination of the Vreknar, and in all the other species that call this galaxy home. Together, we will face this threat. Together, we will ensure a future for all life in our galaxy." As the Emperor's words faded, Alina felt a sense of hope unlike anything she had experienced before. The journey that had begun with a simple cultural exchange had led to this moment, the dawn of a new age of cooperation and unity. Later, as Alina prepared to return to the horizon for their journey back to Earth, she found Princess Zara waiting for her at the spaceport. Captain Reyes, Zora said, a warm smile on her face. I wanted to thank you, one last time. Your openness, your willingness to trust, it changed everything. You've not only honored your mission, but exceeded it in ways no one could have imagined. Elena felt a lump form in her throat. Thank you, Your Highness. This journey, it's been the honor of my life. Zora's eyes sparkled with something that looked suspiciously like tears. This isn't goodbye, Elena. Our paths will cross again, I'm sure of it. There's still so much to be done, so much to prepare for. As they clasped hands in farewell, human and Silurian, Elena felt the weight of the future settling on her shoulders. But it wasn't a burden. It was a challenge, an opportunity to be part of something greater than herself. The horizon lifted off from Siluria, its mission officially complete. But as Elena settled into the captain's chair, she knew that their true journey, the journey to save their galaxy, was only just beginning. With a small smile, she gave the order that would carry them into that uncertain but hopeful future. Take us out, Mr. Harper. Let's see what's out there. The stars streaked by as the horizon leaped into warp, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of not just one world, but an entire galaxy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Human, Silurian, Vreknar, and who knew how many other allies yet to be discovered. The future, for all its dangers, had never looked brighter.